Well, Ian, here we are again, looking at another pre-season fixture. This one, Telford. Now, before we talk about that one, how's the week gone so far?
Been a really good week. I think the players are working extremely hard. We've obviously the group's grown during the week with new signings and of course the trial players as well adding. And we still retain one player up from the youth academy. So kind of been a much fuller group. So I think we've been able to get into a bit more bigger area work and some of the tactical bits. And no, it's been a really good week.
Which player is it that's stayed up from the academy?
Brad McGregor, so we kept him up and he did. I thought he did a good game actually, and he's only young but he's shown some really good attributes and great mentality and somebody that we want to work a little bit more with and see a bit more of. So he'll certainly be involved in the game against Telford tomorrow.
As you mentioned, Ian, a few new faces in the camp: Matt Palmer, Aaron Nemain, and Ed Francis. Just talk us through how they've looked so far.
First of all, Aaron has had just a couple of sessions with the physio. He had hamstring injury at the back end of last season, but he's came through them with some really good numbers on the run-in. So I think he'll join the group Monday with a view to being involved by the time we get to the Derby game. But we just had to double check that off the back of his history last year. Matt has dropped straight into the training, and so has Ed. Looked really comfortable at ease straight away in terms of their position and what they can do. And I think immediately when they've come in, you've seen the qualities that they've got.
Ruben Rodriguez, Elijah Sam, right back in the thick of it as well. How they looked?
Good. They had a little bit of catching up to do with the running, which they did, much to the amusement of the rest of the group watching on. And but they have come back in good shape. I have to say they've obviously done their bits in the off season, and they've come back and they look good.
And it wouldn't be a Notts County interview at this stage without a mention of Carl Roberts, who I had the pleasure of watching in training today. Changed of direction, looked really strong. A couple of clinical finishes as we'd expect. How are things progressing with him from a sort of a medical point of view?
Really good. I think he's pretty much got through it. He had to drop out just at the back end of the last session because little Brad caught him with a bit of a tackle. So Cal's probably noted that one down for Brad. But no, he's come through all the sessions really well. Looks good, and the plan is that he can be out on the pitch tomorrow and play some minutes against Telford.
And then would he be available for Boston if he comes through that, or...?
No, the plan is probably to get him some minutes against Telford, then rest against Boston because they're quite close together, and then just prepare for the Derby game.
Okay, so yeah, as we said, Boston is the next challenge after this one. It starts to hot up a little bit, doesn't it? Because that comes on the Tuesday. Is there a marked difference between your approach to Telford on Saturday versus the stuff next week, Boston, and then into Derby?
Not massively in terms of the minutes. It's kind of like probably players are approaching the hour mark in terms of the match minutes that we want to get them. So most players will play around an hour. So we'll just kind of split the group a little bit, and then some will play against Telford, and then some others will start against Boston. So try to divide the group a little bit and make sure that everybody's kind of come through with the minutes they need. And then again, it's like against Derby, we can build up and play a few more minutes. So we're getting closer to that 90-minute mark around the Derby game.
And when do your sort of tactical thoughts really start coming into it in terms of trying to implement the way we want to sort of get going against Barnet on that first day?
Soon, I hope. We've done quite a bit of work now in the last week on it and just kind of revisiting what we were doing at the back end of last season. But obviously it's still a bit disjointed. You know, we have 5 trialists still working with us who are contributing a lot to the training sessions, plus new faces in. So it will take a little while to click, but we're working with it. So hope to see some elements of that straight away tomorrow, and then little bits going forward from there.
You mentioned the trialist there, obviously, and we also mentioned there was a busy week of transfer activity earlier this week. Where are we with recruitment, and how many extra bodies do you think you might need? Have you got a sort of a defined number yet?
Not a defined number, I'd say. It's just about what we feel the group is missing and what we could contribute to it. So obviously the trialists have all got their own individual skill sets, and they're some very good players, so they can contribute something. So it's what would complement the rest of the squad. Certainly, we've mentioned before about continuing to strengthen further up the field as well. We've got Carl Wootton, we've got Ruben, Lewis Knight, Alicia. So again, it's about what might bring a different dynamic to that final third as well.
That's the one position where a lot of supporters are sort of wondering, is that something where we're going to strengthen it? Do you think there is enough potential backup for Kyle Wootton, who had such a long season last year and put so much in. Do you feel like there's maybe a centre forward role, a backup centre forward role potentially?
Possibly, but I definitely wouldn't call it a backup one, because no one should ever be so comfortable in there, and Woods, certainly would want a challenge to his role in there. He had a fantastic season last season. Ruben obviously contributed with a lot of goals as well towards the back end, so I think we got a lot from them. Elisha's come back and has looked good. I'm really pleased with how he's approached the pre-season so far. Looks very strong, and if we can get him going, he'll bring something different up there, as will Lewis Knight with his pace. But certainly that kind of target player that Carl Wootton is, a challenge to that would be good to add in.
Telford gave us a really good game last summer in the pre-season. Good surface, good stadium. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, the training's been great. I've really enjoyed being out on the pitch, but it's really good to get the reference points from the games and see them now perform in matches. Telford are a good team, like you say, as of Boston next week. Really good setup there and a very strong side they've got. So a couple of really interesting tests for us prior to the Derby game, and I think we'll, this next kind of week or so, going up to the Derby game and past that, we'll get some really interesting feedback from where we're at.
When you've got a few new signings, as we have, you obviously get a look at them on the training pitch, but do you in a way really look forward to seeing them in the first friendly and see how they actually face up against an opponent, for example?
Yeah, because I think you kind of have some players that excel in different types of training moments, and really you want to see how they figure up in the matches. So really look forward to seeing them get out there and put on the strip and play a friendly game for us, and see them playing 11v11 in real competition.
And as you mentioned earlier briefly, it's likely to be a lot of players playing 60 and then a wave of substitutions at that point, and a couple at half time potentially. Yeah,
we'll change a couple at half time and then quite a few after 60, just because that's where we're at physically at the moment. We've trained with quite an intensity and a big load during the week, so then 60 minutes is probably bang on the money for what they need at the moment. So we want to make sure they get that we protect the players, that we come through it well, and then can build again on that next week. So yeah, sometimes the last parts of the game can get a little disjointed, but it also gives players a chance to get on the pitch, show what they can do, and play with a bit of enthusiasm for the last half an hour.